Showing you the bit where I set everything up is sort of becoming a bit of a thing with these videos, I guess. Yeah, so I've got ADHD, and that means that if I ever say what I'm going to record and sorry, what I'm going to talk about in the next video, probably not going to follow through on it a lot of the time. So, because I realized that talking about the gender stuff is going to be very important, and I do really want to make that video soon, but it's going to be a bigger thing than what I initially realized. But so that'll happen down the line. But something I've been thinking about a little bit, because I am someone who's always working on themselves psychologically, processing the trauma, that kind of a thing. I've been finally getting in tune with my own feelings a little bit more, which is weird because I'm someone who has always considered themselves to be really good with feelings, but it's just because I haven't ever really developed the skills to process emotions when they're simple. And so they've gotten very big and very complex for me. And then I've developed these tools and skills for developing with big, complex emotions, which is why going into psychology and becoming a therapist kind of makes sense for me, because I can deal with stuff when it's hit crisis point, but making sure the stuff doesn't get to crisis point, that's kind of the skills that I've realized I still need to develop a bit. And part of the reason why I haven't been able to develop those is because I've got ADHD. So I've got a bit of a theory. So now, as always, I haven't got my thoughts together before I sat down and started filming, because I kind of want this to just be a moment that happens. You know, you get to see my process of figuring stuff out. And it also winds up being a bit more real and intimate and stuff. So I've started noticing when things make me feel things, because as a defense mechanism, I've kind of ignored how something's made me feel and just pushed through, because pushing through keeps everyone else happy. And also it's really difficult to explain to people what's going on when you have ADHD and you don't know you have ADHD. It's hard to let people know that you're feeling overwhelmed by how much demand the environment's placing on you, basically, to pay attention and to focus and to sequence everything you need to do. It's hard. But there's been other times where it's like, you know, I've felt something. I'm like, oh, I'm feeling ashamed of having needs right now. You know, like, this is a shame. Like, it's not this is a shame response, but it's more just like, oh, hang on, I suddenly don't feel pleasant anymore. What's going on here? Oh, I'm ashamed because I realized I've got a need and I don't feel like I can articulate that right now. But then realizing that, I'm able to then figure it out. Here's where it gets really tricky for neurodivergent people, like not just people with ADHD, because anyone who's got just a brain that works different is going to have the same kind of things, because our bodies function different as neurodivergent people. So, like, this is going to be a little bit roundabout, but stick with me. So if you can imagine, if you're watching this, there's a good chance you've experienced anxiety of some description at some point. Like, if you were anxious about something. I'm not talking about like having an anxiety disorder. I just mean you've felt the feeling of anxiety at some point. Could you imagine if you were the only person that you knew who experienced anxiety and we didn't have the word anxiety? You would have to tell people, oh, I'm afraid. I can tell something's about to happen, and I'm afraid that it's going to happen. Like, we'll say that you can't use the word worried either, but and so then people would think, oh, you're afraid all the time. But like, why are you afraid? The thing hasn't happened. It's not happening right now. Why are you afraid? Because while fear and anxiety are very similar emotions, and you can even frame anxiety as a type of fear, I don't think that's unreasonable. As soon as you don't have that more specific feeling, it can be really hard to articulate to other people or even to understand it yourself. Because if you were just like, I'm just afraid all the time of things that haven't happened and things that might not happen, like, you see how that feels like a really big deal? Whereas if you're just like, oh, I'm feeling a bit anxious, like, it's like that, it's a word for a normal thing that people experience sometimes. So in that context, neurodivergent people experience a lot of things that we don't have language to adequately describe quickly. And I realized this when I felt a feeling that I've since been describing, because I don't have a better word. If you can think of a better one, let me know in the comments, which was called helpy. So my ADHD makes me quite impulsive. And my personal impulsivity expresses itself a lot as really needing to tell people stuff. Like if a thought's come to me, I need to tell someone before I forget it, because I'm going to forget it, because my brain forgets things. And also it's exciting. Like I feel a lot of excitement in my body and I need to tell someone. Now, that's a broad category of feelings. That's not one feeling, because there's a lot of different little versions of that. And helpy is when someone has articulated a problem that they're having, and I have thought of the solution. And but it's been a little while since they told me. So they've told me, I've been like, that's weird. I can't, like, that's a problem. I can't think of the solution. And then we've gone away, we've done something else. And then I know what it is. And then I have to rush off and find them. That's a very specific feeling, which is different to, hey, I just figured something else out for me and there's no context for you, or something like that. Those feel different. But we don't have words to describe the differences between, like the subtle differences between those feelings. Certainly not ones that most people will understand if you just, you can't go around saying I'm feeling kind of helpy. Like, because helpy is not really a good word for it, but it's like, because one of them is like, oh, I'm excited, I can help you. The other one is like, I thought of this interesting thing and I need to tell you for my own joy and satisfaction. Those are they're two slightly different feelings, but we don't have words for them. So if you're neurodivergent and and you have trouble like understanding your feelings, or feeling your because people talk about feeling your feelings, which, by the way, if you don't know what feeling your feelings means, they mean feeling it in your body. It's because feelings are physiological responses to things, not just like mindsets that we get into, So yeah, but it's really hard to get in tune with your feelings, because half the feelings that you experience when you're neurodivergent don't have easy words to go along with them. And so what I think we need to do is we need to start creating new emotion, like, the emotion wheels. I might get a picture of it up somewhere to show you what I mean if you haven't come across them before. But those are really helpful. The trouble is they've only got neurotypical emotions on them. That's got the standard set. But neurotypical people don't know what it's like to hyperfocus on something. And they don't know what it's like when you finally get on a roll with something that you didn't want to do, but now you're kind of doing it. And it's not quite hyperfocus, but like all your ducks in a row and you can make the thing happen. You're going to scream if you get interrupted, because you can't get back. Or the disappointment of having someone take you out of that zone. Like, those are all feelings that aren't on an emotion wheel, are they? And to describe them using the neurotypical language of, of disappointed, frustrated, like, that's fine, but that's like describing anxiety as fear. Like, anxiety is a kind of fear response, but it's not granular enough. It's not instructive. It doesn't tell anyone what your internal experience is actually like, or anything useful, really. So of course it's difficult to get in tune with your feelings when you're neurodivergent. We don't have cultural tools to articulate them clearly. So I want to do some work to develop some of these. If you come up with some of your own, talk to people about it. If someone does some peer-reviewed stuff before I do, power to you. I'm going to have more good ideas. I'm not threatened by it. But yeah, anyway, that's what I'm thinking for the time being. Thanks for hanging out. Let's hang out again sometime. I guess that's it.